A high school graduate is a disgrace to our family.
Saying this, David poured the beer over Victoria's head. My mom and I were stunned by the unimaginable sight. While everyone around us turned pale, David's face bore an even more sinister smile than before. I can't understand how someone can develop such a deeply dark mindset. To me, Victoria is more important than my own life. After enduring so many insults, I couldn't hold back any longer. Wanting to get David out of my sight, I decided to reveal a certain fact to him. Your job offer will be rescinded.
What?
At that moment, David awkwardly turned his gaze to me. He didn't seem to understand why the word job offer was being mentioned in this context. The truth is, from the moment David walked into the living room, I realized something. David hadn't noticed, but I remembered clearly. David and I had met before. My name is Alex, and I'm turning 31 this year. I have an older sister, Victoria, who is 3 years older than me. Victoria is tough, but she's always been kind to me, and I've relied on her since we were kids. Our dad started a bakery after retiring from his office job, but it hasn't really taken off, so we've been struggling financially. Both of our parents work hard, but there's no extra money because they have to cover daily expenses and pay off the loans they took out to start the business. To ease our parents' burden, Victoria started working part-time when she was in high school. It was also to earn money for her own school fees. I wanted to help my family too, so I talked to Victoria about it, but she discouraged me.
Just focus on your studies. Money comes and goes, but knowledge is a lifelong asset.
Trusting Victoria's words, I devoted myself to my studies. As a result, I managed to become the top student in my grade, and my family was thrilled and hopeful about my future. But our joy was short-lived. Dad passed away from an illness. Losing the breadwinner of our family was a huge shock, and Mom was too traumatized to run the bakery.
Every time I try to work, I just think of him.
Hearing this, Victoria encouraged Mom.
I'll take over Dad's work. That way, I won't need tuition money, and we can earn some, killing two birds with one stone.
Mom suggested closing the bakery, but Victoria insisted we needed the money. Despite Mom's objections, Victoria graduated from high school and took over Dad's business. It seemed Victoria didn't want to let go of the business Dad left behind. Apparently, she had a big fight with Dad before he passed away. She made a firm decision while standing before Dad's body, a few weeks after she had said some terrible things to him. At our dad's funeral, Victoria whispered to me,
I'll work in Dad's place, so don't worry.
Until I graduated from college, Victoria ran the bakery and managed to get it on track. Thanks to her, I was able to graduate without financial worries. I am deeply grateful for everything Victoria did. Just as I was about to take on the responsibility of supporting the family, Victoria said,
I think I'm going to get married.
My mom and I jumped for joy at the wonderful news of Victoria's engagement. After all the hardships Victoria had faced, she decided to take a step toward her own happiness, encouraged by my success. While I was happy, I also felt a twinge of sadness, but I had no intention of opposing her marriage. However, despite wanting her to be happy, Victoria's face remained gloomy when she announced her engagement. Concerned about her troubled expression, I asked what was wrong, and Victoria confided in me.
Actually, his brother is against our marriage.
Victoria's boyfriend is Thomas. His family is from a prestigious background, with relatives who graduated from well-known universities. His brother's name is David. David graduated from a prestigious university and recently boasted about getting a job offer from an international company after switching careers. He has a strong preference for brand names and told her, "If you're going to be part of our family, you need to have a comparable education." When Victoria once visited the house with Thomas, even though she was present, David nonchalantly said,
Are you still seeing this woman? She's in her late 30s, has no education. Dump her and find someone younger and smarter.
This was before they even exchanged greetings, and Victoria was left stunned by the outrageous comment.
Don't say such horrible things.
Thomas protested, but David didn't soften his tone at all.
You're just being deceived. Older women use all sorts of tricks to catch men who can earn money. The fact that she's targeting someone like you, who lacks life experience, makes her a pretty devious woman.
David seemed to have a particular animosity toward Victoria. Victoria, treated like a scammer deceiving his precious younger brother Thomas, left in tears. However, their relationship began when Thomas happened to visit the bakery Victoria was managing, and he fell in love with her at first sight. Victoria wasn't aiming for him, she was just treating him like any other customer, but Thomas kept visiting the bakery and actively pursued a relationship. Victoria mentioned the risks of being older, poor, and only having a high school diploma, but Thomas was adamant, saying, "None of that matters." In the end, despite her strong-willed nature, Victoria couldn't resist Thomas's persistence, and they started dating. Although Victoria felt secure dating the kind-hearted Thomas, David's interference prevented them from getting married. Wanting to support Victoria's marriage, I was wondering if there was anything I could do. That's when Victoria made a suggestion to Mom and me.
I want you to come with me the next time I go to greet his family. Maybe David will be convinced if we use Alex's educational background.
If it would help Victoria's marriage, I had no problem leveraging my education. Since neither Mom nor I had any objections, we decided to go along with Victoria's plan. On the day we visited Thomas's family home, we were greeted by a grand gate. As we walked through the long garden to the entrance, we were awestruck by the grand and imposing house. Following Thomas's lead, we arrived in the living room where our family was left to wait. While we waited for David to return from work, Thomas shared stories about himself. He was a very gentle and kind person. Apparently, Thomas's family also lost their father when they were young, and David took on the role of the head of the household in his place. I thought he was somewhat similar to Victoria, but David was known to be strict and demanding.
Maybe David felt a sense of responsibility, but he was so harsh that I once ended up hospitalized from lack of sleep. I was forced to study every day and attend extra classes without any breaks. He even controlled my social interactions, leaving me with no free time.
Thomas looked very sad as he shared this. Having had his precious youth taken away, he also got his job through David. However, when he couldn't keep up at work and was struggling with life, he met Victoria.
The moment I saw you, Victoria, I knew you were my angel.
He might be wealthy, but he's had a much harder life than I have. As I was thinking this, David entered the living room. Seeing his face shocked me.
So, you've brought her here again. And now you've dragged the whole family along like leeches. How much more are you going to cling to Thomas, this woman?
David's demeanor was just as Victoria had described. Despite our presence, David's arrogant attitude showed no regard for anyone. I was angry at his words, but I tried not to show it and attempted to greet him.
David, listen. This is Victoria's brother, Alex, and he graduated from Harvard.
Thomas introduced me, trying to ease the tension. As soon as he heard the introduction, David's expression clearly changed.
Oh, that's wonderful. So, even in a family with a failure of a woman, there's someone exceptional hidden away. That's truly remarkable.
Once again, David insulted Victoria. I thought it was David's lack of common decency that was truly abnormal. However, for the sake of Victoria's desire to proceed with the marriage, I could only clench my fists out of sight. As I struggled to keep my emotions from showing on my face, doubts began to arise. Can Victoria be happy marrying into a family with someone who looks down on others like this? If she ends up neglected and discarded, I don't think I could keep my sanity. Victoria had sacrificed herself for the family until now. I wanted her to find happiness for herself from now on, and if that wasn't possible, I hoped this marriage wouldn't happen. Maybe if David continues to dislike her, he'll oppose the marriage forever, and Victoria won't have to suffer. It might be a terrible thought, but I wanted Victoria to prioritize herself that much. Feeling sorry for Victoria, but holding back my anger, I watched as David rudely approached us. Then, David picked up the beer that Thomas had prepared to serve us.
Well, you've come all this way as a family. I should properly welcome you. Here, take a glass. Let me pour you some beer. I recently got a job at an international company. This is a celebration.
David urged Victoria to hold out her glass. Victoria, doing as she was told, held out an empty glass and waited to be served while David started to smirk. I wasn't sure if our plan had worked after David heard about my education, but I thought that serving Victoria a drink was a sign that he was no longer against their marriage. However, David's real intention was not to serve the drink.
But that's beside the point. Our family doesn't need any inadequate members.
And then, as David approached Victoria with the beer, he committed an utterly vile act.
A high school graduate is a disgrace to our family.
Saying this, David poured the beer over Victoria's head. My mom and I were stunned by the unimaginable sight. While everyone around us turned pale, David's face bore an even more sinister smile than before. I can't understand how someone can develop such a deeply dark mindset. To me, Victoria is more important than my own life. After enduring so many insults, I couldn't hold back any longer. Wanting to get David out of my sight, I decided to reveal a certain fact to him. Your job offer will be rescinded.
What?
At that moment, David awkwardly turned his gaze to me. He didn't seem to understand why the word job offer was being mentioned in this context. The truth is, from the moment David walked into the living room, I realized something. David hadn't noticed, but I remembered clearly. David and I had met before. David, still looking at me with a face full of disbelief, didn't seem to grasp the situation.
What are you suddenly talking about? No one would want to work for a company with someone as lowly as you. I have a job offer from a top-tier international company. Don't say such ridiculous things, you filthy rat.
David seemed very proud of his job offer from the international company and got furious when he felt it was being mocked. In his emotionally charged rant, there was no sign of intelligence or reason. To jog the memory of this foolish person, I asked. Oh, a filthy rat, right? Well said. By the way, does my face look familiar to you? David stared at my face, and then suddenly a look of realization crossed his features. He immediately began to tremble, his face turning pale.
Oh my God. Why are you here?
His voice was barely audible, cracking with fear. David had realized what he had done and could only shake in terror. The truth is, David and I had met a few months before. But before I explain that encounter, I need to talk about my life after graduating from college. After graduation, I went abroad with a wealthy friend, and together we started a business. We developed an app that could instantly reflect restaurant reviews, similar to the restaurant review sites commonly used in the United States, and thought about applying this concept in Spain. It was a system where registered users could add restaurants they were interested in and upload photos of the dishes served. Thanks to its popularity, the app attracted many users, and the number of registrations continues to grow even now. At that time, we operated from a small office and had little recognition. However, as more users and restaurants registered, businesses naturally began to reach out to us. We implemented limited-time campaigns to benefit our users, giving back to them in various ways. Such consumer-focused strategies easily stimulated the minds of our users. As the number of registrations and business deals increased, the company grew in size and eventually became a top-tier enterprise. My friend and I had achieved dream-like success, but I told him that I wanted to return to the United States because I was worried about my family, and he appointed me as the head of the American branch, and now I am working to promote the app in the United States. In my efforts to recruit top talent, I actively sought out skilled individuals, and that's how I met David. During the final interview, I heard directly from him. Despite boasting an impressive resume, his explanations were vague and lacking in substance. He was more of a flirt than a polite one, and he gave me compliments. I didn't have a good impression of him. Honestly, my impression of him was terrible, but my assistants recommended hiring him. Although I disliked the idea of bringing on a problematic person, I needed to secure personnel quickly to support our operations, so I reluctantly offered David the job. I didn't remember his name until I saw his face, and I never imagined he was related to Victoria's boyfriend. David seemed to have the same realization, and when he saw my face, he recognized what he had done. His face turned from pale to purple, but I mercilessly pressed on. Isn't it funny that a raccoon wants to join a rat's company? Even though I threw a sarcastic question at him, David didn't respond. Those around us were confused, tilting their heads in bewilderment. Only David and I fully understood the situation and were openly showing our emotions.
Well, this is a traditional welcome in our family.
After pouring beer over Victoria, my family member, David was now trying to offer a feeble excuse. Seeing him in such a pathetic state, I felt my anger turning into exasperation. Sometimes people pour beer on each other when they win a baseball championship. So go ahead, pour some on me too. Maybe that'll make me happy. I taunted David sarcastically. David shook his head, indicating he couldn't do it, and suddenly began to apologize.
I am so sorry. I had no idea you were connected to them. Please forgive me.
It's fine. I have no expectations anymore. Besides, if you think about it, they can get married without your approval. Forgive me for trying to change your mind forcefully. We won't be seeing each other again." As I stood up to leave, David clung to my leg. He seemed desperate for me to withdraw the cancellation of his job offer.
Please, I wouldn't have acted so rudely if I had known.
I said it's fine. I don't want to have anything to do with you because I disagree with your views. Hiring someone who can hurt another's family without a second thought would only cause trouble for the company. I forcefully shook David off. Then I led Victoria and Mom out of the house. Even as we drove away, David kept apologizing, but I didn't stop and just drove off. Afterward, I explained the situation to Victoria and Mom and decided to cancel David's job offer. Victoria was worried that I would oppose her marriage, but I had no intention of doing so. If marrying Thomas would make Victoria happy, I wanted them to go ahead with it. Victoria, please find happiness for yourself this time. That's my wish.
Thank you. I don't think I could have done this without you. You gave me the courage to take this step. From now on, think about how you can make many people happy, not just for me.
However, I couldn't bring myself to forgive David for what he did to Victoria. I made it a condition that he wouldn't be invited to the wedding, and Thomas, who was present, agreed.
Don't worry. David won't be coming. We had a huge fight after that incident. Even as brother, no one can stay silent when someone important to them is hurt. Besides, I wanted to stop constantly trying to appease David.
That day, the beer incident was shocking not only to Mom and me, but also to Thomas, who realized what a terrible person David was. After we left, Thomas had a big fight with David and stormed out of the house. When I heard that he was staying in a hotel, I decided to let him stay at our family home. While David was an abnormal person, Thomas was different. When we met again, Thomas was worried about Victoria and apologized to me. His sincerity made me want to support Victoria and Thomas's marriage. A few months later, while they were having their wedding reception, David faced a miserable fate. David had visited my home and office several times to ask for forgiveness, but I had no intention of forgiving him. His persistence was so annoying that I eventually reported him to the police and had him escorted away. This incident was shocking to his family. David was disowned by his wife and Thomas, and he was criticized by his relatives. Currently, he lives alone in a mansion, but without a job, he can't maintain it. Thomas told me it's only a matter of time before he has to give it up.
I wonder where it all went wrong. I think David went crazy from taking on too much responsibility. I never wanted to be outstanding. I just wanted to spend time with my family.
I had no words for the pitiful David, who had ruined his own family by becoming obsessed with educational achievements. As David's presence faded away, Victoria was able to enjoy a happy daily life. Currently, I live with my mom and support her as her legs and back have weakened. Victoria and I keep in touch, and she sometimes calls to check on us. 6 months later, Victoria became pregnant. We had given up hope due to her age, but miraculously she conceived, and Mom and I were even happier than Victoria.
Just wait and see. My child will join your company and take it over.
I laughed at her declaration, which didn't sound like it came from a family member. If her child grows up to be that capable, I would be thrilled. My business is also thriving, with sales steadily increasing. The app, which will be used by many people, continues to gain new features, and I plan to leverage this for future business expansion. The continuous flow of new ideas must be because I'm genuinely enjoying what I do. When I think back, Victoria was also smiling when she took over Dad's bakery and made it successful. She must have been overjoyed at that time. Moderate success in business is incredibly enjoyable. Even when things seem unfortunate, they might not be as bad as they appear. Until today, various misfortunes have befallen our family, forcing us to endure hardships. I was able to study, but without my family, I wouldn't have had the luxury to even think about starting a business. It's because Victoria worked so hard back then that I am who I am today. I must never forget that. Because they've endured so much for the family, I want Victoria and Mom to be rewarded. Recently, I started dating a woman from work, but I haven't told Victoria yet. I'm waiting for the right moment to surprise her, hoping to break the news at just the right time. Imagining Victoria's surprised face made me smile naturally.